The husband played the high-altitude cableway for the first time, but he didn't know the rope had cracked. But the man was oblivious. Instead, he played passionately. He didn't know how happy he was just a second ago. The next second he was so sad until he was halfway out. The man seemed to sense something was wrong, but it was too late. Today, I recommend a high-rated masterpiece, In the Blood, which is being shown on a film and television platform built on .com and .top domains. Let's watch it together. He was so scared that he grabbed the steel rope tightly and squeezed his legs tightly because there was a 1,000-foot cliff below him. For fear of falling and dying accidentally, he could only stay on it without making big movements. After calming down, he shouted for help with all his might. The safety officer noticed something wrong. When he arrived, the man was completely exhausted. The safety officer tried to keep him from letting go, but his strength had reached its limit. His strength could no longer support his body. This terrifying scene was all seen by his wife. She quickly asked the staff to call an ambulance, and she ran desperately down the hillside. With the reference of the steel wire rope, she found the location where her husband fell. Then she quickly called her husband's phone. Using the sound of the phone ringing, she finally found her dying husband. Fortunately, her husband still had a breath. When the rescuers arrived, they quickly took the man to the ambulance. When the wife wanted to go with him, the medical staff stopped her. Since Ellie and her husband were on vacation abroad, they couldn't understand the local language. To save time, and not delaying her husband's condition, she had no choice but to ask for a hospital business card. So the ambulance drove ahead, and she rode a motorcycle behind the ambulance. Ai Lee didn't dare to be distracted for fear of losing her way and getting lost. When she drove to a fork in the road, a car speeding towards her suddenly came out without paying attention and fell directly to the ground. When she came to her senses, the ambulance had already disappeared. It seemed that someone was manipulating all this, but what she never expected was that when he followed the address on the business card addressed to the hospital, he learned from the nurse at the consultation desk the hospital had not received a seriously injured patient. After repeated questions, the result was still the same. Ellie was completely desperate. In order to find out where her husband was, she ran to all the major hospitals nearby, but the reply was still the same. No one had been admitted to the hospital. Her husband had disappeared like a puff of smoke. Completely disappeared. So she had to go to the police station to report. But the police just asked him to fill out a form, and then told him to go back to his residence and wait. But in a foreign country, and it's hard to communicate. She didn't have any friends here. Ellie didn't know what to do for a moment. The day after that, after learning that Mike was missing, they quickly flew here by plane. Ellie took them to the police chief in order to find more clues. Ellie took the director to the tourist and the place where her husband fell. Then a dramatic scene happened. Yesterday, the safety officer who rescued her husband, the safety officer said he didn't know Ellie. Ellie was confused after hearing this. Couldn't he recognize her in just one day?
Why are you lying?
Okay.
We were here yesterday.
Register.com and .top domain names to secure a permanent entry for your brand. She didn't understand why the other person lied. Could it be that the disappearance of Matt hides some secret? The director learned about the situation and asked them to wait patiently, but Ellie can't wait now. In order to find out the truth as soon as possible, so Ellie came to the tourist center. She found the security guard who lied. Seeing the other person's bad attitude, she took advantage of his inattention to clip the buckle on him. Then she pulled him and slid down directly. When they were halfway down, Ellie quickly took out her phone to take a picture. She asked him why he lied and said he didn't know her. Her husband had fallen from here. The person who rescued him was the security guard. Seeing the safety officer kept quibbling, when Ellie untied the safety buckle on him, the other person was completely scared. Only then did he tell the truth. The rescuers that day were all imposters. Their real identities were local gangsters. They specifically target foreign tourists. They charged high medical fees in the name of rescue. The safety officer made a profit from it. As for where Mike was sent, the safety officer didn't know at all. In desperation, Ellie took the security guard's statement to the sheriff, hoping the sheriff would send troops to arrest the gangsters to find her husband's hiding place. But the sheriff didn't listen to her, saying that Ellie deliberately abused torture and even called his men and decided to detain her. Seeing this, Ellie quickly stood up to refute and punched the police officer. She wanted to take the chance to escape, but there were too many of them and was immediately held down by several people and handcuffed her. When Ellie was taken to a car, the police decided to send her to the embassy embassy and deport her. Before the car drove far, Ellie noticed something was wrong, because the car was not the direction of the embassy, but instead drove into a remote suburb. Finally, the car stopped at a deserted forest. She found 2 police officers picking up shovels and digging. Ellie finally realized the danger. This was not sending her back home, but to bury her alive. It's not hard to guess. The police had been bribed by the gangsters and were going to kill her, but they underestimated Ellie's skills. She practiced fighting skills with her father since childhood, and no one can beat her. She took a deep breath, bending her thumb with great pain, and broke his hand free from the handcuffs, and then reset the dislocated fingers. While the police were digging a hole, quickly stepped forward and launched an attack. She slashed a police officer's throat with a knife and punched the other officer several times. The .com and .top domain names are concise and easy to remember, with high recognition. Until she used a shovel to send them away completely. A revenge officially began. The woman held a steel gun, trying to use the little girl's life as a threat to force the sheriff to tell her the whereabouts of her husband. A few days ago, Ellie and her husband came here for a vacation, but her husband fell off a cliff while playing, but he mysteriously disappeared during the transportation. They finally got the news from the safety officer, but the sheriff chose to silence her. After realizing that the police and the gang were in cahoots, she had to use the girl's life to threaten the sheriff to tell the truth. For the safety of her daughter, the sheriff had to tell her the address of a hospital. In this way, Ellie Kia took the opportunity to attack the hospital staff after the other person passed out and took his work permit. Then she swaggered into the hospital. Then she rushed into the work area. She put a plastic bag on the director's head. When she questioned the truth, the director finally revealed the whole secret. This hospital is not a regular hospital, but a gang's property. The gang leader was suffering from a rare disease and needed a bone marrow transplant to survive. After Mike was sent to the hospital, the director found that his blood type and bone marrow matched the gang leader's exactly, so he secretly kidnapped Mike to prepare for the transplant. Today is the day of the surgery. She saw her husband's figure on the monitor and threatened her to cooperate with him to save her husband, or her life would be in danger. The doctor agreed quickly, and then pretended to be the doctor's assistant to the operating room. But when the gangsters' minions saw this new face, they were very cautious. After a search, they found nothing suspicious. When the surgery began, Ellie took the opportunity to take out her hidden pistol and knocked down several younger brothers and threatened the gang leader's life, saving her dying husband. The gangsters wouldn't let them go easily and shot at them frantically. Fortunately, Ellie was skilled and hurriedly fled with her husband. Finally, she got into the car that came to pick them up and finally escaped from the gang's territory. Not long after, the gang leader led his men to the slum during the fight between the gang leader and Ellie, but he was no match for Ellie and was strangled by her in public. But her husband was caught by his minions. Just as the two sides were at an impasse, a gang leader arrived in time and accused the gang leader of privately kidnapping tourists to extend his life, which seriously violated the rules of the island. To punish the black boss for his actions, the long-haired man immediately used the gang rules to give Ellie and her husband an explanation. Thus, the crisis was resolved. Afterwards, they left by speedboat. This said place. The movie ends here.